Lauren walked into our backyard like she was arriving at a show she was headlining, voice a notch higher than usual, arms flung wide for Brooke, Tess, and Mariah. My birthday, my grill, our lawn. Their bags hit my patio table like they owned the deed. Brooke popped a cork without asking. Tess dragged chairs into a cluster that blocked the walkway. Mariah tossed her cardigan over the back of the chair I set for Nora, quiet Nora from next door who bakes and minds her own business. Brooke laughed loud enough to spook birds off the elm. If we were smart, we'd kick the guys out and make a girl's fortress. Tess aimed at me. If I were Lauren, I'd have kicked Ethan out already. Lauren didn't blink. She did that new thing, wide grin, eyes off me, loyalty to the crowd. They're just joking, she sang to no one and everyone. I set down the tongs, wiped my hands on a towel, took one step from the grill. Think that's funny? Silence landed fast. Brooke's smile stalled. Tess reached for her glass. Mariah studied the sky. Lauren kept the grin, but it thinned. This isn't a place for putting people down, I said level. This house is safe for both of us. Brooke swung first. It's a vibe, Ethan. Lighten up. It's my home, I answered. We keep it respectful. Lauren slid in, bright and weightless. It's just their humor. Then it's a bad fit for here, I told her. Nora came through the gate just then, loaf of bread and a towel, simple as always. Happy birthday, Ethan, she said, offering the bread with two hands. Brooke gave her a once-over. Sweet. A domestic tribute, she said to the table. Nora's eyes dipped. She wasn't made for this kind of noise. I shifted. Nora, that looks great. Put it by the salad. I set the towel down near the grill. The talk finished as far as I was concerned. If I'd known where it was headed, I'd have cut the music and driven to the lake alone with a steak and a folding chair. They kept the noise dialed down after that, but the tone was set. Lauren's laughs had a rehearsed edge. The three hovered like they'd been assigned regions of my yard. When people from the street came by with cards, the team sized them up like bouncers. By sundown, I'd stretched the party as far as made sense. People left. Nora waved from the gate. Brooke said, "Adios, patriarchy," under her breath and thought she was brave. When the gate clicked shut for the last time, Lauren came over with 2 paper plates and set them near me like peace offerings. You got tense, she said. You let them insult our neighbor in our backyard on my birthday, I said. And me. That's not tense. That's a boundary. They were kidding. You laughed with them. She shrugged at the dark lawn, like that would erase it. You're being controlling. Good, I said. Let's cut this early. You don't get to call disrespect control. Not in this house. Her mouth tightened, and, for a second, her old self flickered, the one who used to ask me about my day and wait for the answer. The flicker went out. She carried plates inside. I shut down the grill, wrapped it, and told myself it was a glitch. It wasn't. 2 days later, an alert from the bank lit my phone at lunch. $2,400 paid to something called Elevate Circle Group Transformation. The pending charge sat there bold as brass. Our joint account. No text from her. No heads up. I finished writing up a job quote, drove home, and found Lauren on the couch with her laptop open to a page full of gold circles and soft focus photos of women holding hands on a beach. What's Elevate Circle? I asked, standing where she could see I was calm. She didn't look at me. It's a program. Expansion work. You wouldn't get it. You used our joint account for $2,400. It's my growth, she said. I don't need permission to grow. You don't need permission to breathe, I said. You do need a conversation before you use the household account for anything with 4 zeros on it. She shut the laptop like a stage cue. This is what they meant, she said, a line clearly borrowed. Financial control isn't love. I pay every bill in this house, I said. On time. Without drama. Me asking for a heads up isn't control. It's respect for the system that keeps lights on and a roof over us. She crossed her arms. I'm done doing domestic work. It doesn't align with my values anymore. I studied her. You're announcing you're not contributing at home? To me? As a surprise? After spending $2,000 out of the joint account. It's a reframe, she said. We're revising commitments. You don't unilaterally revise commitments, I replied. Not here. You sound rigid. That's another word for reliable, I told her. Let's be clear. You don't use our money like that again. You don't rewrite the deal without a conversation. Your deal, she said. Our deal, I corrected. Which you're trying to make your deal. She rolled her eyes big enough to be seen from space. You're threatened by growth. I didn't bother. I pulled out my notebook, wrote 3 lines, and read them. 1. Separate cards. 2. Shared bills get funded by me. Discretionary spending gets capped. 3. We sit down Sunday and put it all in writing. You're not my boss. I'm the man paying for this roof, I said. Which means I get a say about holes in it. She threw up her hands. Brooke's right. You live in a box. I stood up. Boxes hold things. They also keep them from falling all over the floor. I'm changing passwords for the bill pay. If you need something, you text me. No spur-of-the-moment charges. Controlling. Boundaries, I said, and walked to the office. I logged in, moved money, set up new accounts, printed cards, and cut the old ones in half with the office scissors. It took an hour. I left half the stack in a clear folder on the console table with a simple note. Household, paid. Personal, ask. There was no drama in my hands. I've worked with lumber long enough to know. Measure, cut, sand, done. That night, she came into the bedroom and stood by the dresser like an actor in a scene about to ask for a line. I need space, she said. You're crowding me. Fine, I said. I'll give you space. I'll be at Nora's guest room tonight. It's quiet there. She blinked. You're going to the neighbors? She offered it before, when your friends started using our house like a clubhouse. I said. It's 2 doors down. I'll get sleep, you'll get space, we'll both get silence. You're punishing me. I'm creating distance, I said, zipping a weekend bag. So the temperature doesn't keep climbing. I texted Nora. She answered in 5 minutes. Doors open. Fresh sheets. When I walked past the living room, Lauren was on the phone with speaker on. Brooke's voice leaked airily. He's trying to isolate you, babe. I picked up the folder of new cards. I'm not isolating anyone, I said to the room. I'm opting out of chaos. Brooke went quiet. Lauren stared like she could move me with a look. She couldn't. I left. Nora's guest room smelled like lavender and old wood. She'd set a glass of water on the nightstand and a folded note. You're welcome to quiet. If you need bread, it's on the counter. She didn't ask questions. She nodded at me across our shared fence the next morning and went back to her garden like always. The day after that, Lauren came by Nora's porch around dinner time with a pie box and a look like a school play version of remorse. It's apple, she said. I made it for you. I opened the box. The crust was neat. For a second, the muscle in my chest that remembers normal loosened. Thanks, I said. She nodded at Nora's hydrangeas. I'll block them, she said. I'll cancel the retreat. Cancel if you want, I said. Block if you want. I'm not asking for theater. I'm asking for respect. I'm trying, she said softer. I appreciate the pie, I told her. I'm sleeping here for a week. Sunday we sit with numbers and expectations. You're making me jump through hoops, she said. I'm putting rungs on a ladder, I answered. Climb or don't. She put a hand on my arm like she'd been told it was the right move. I don't want to fight. Then don't, I said. Do right. She left with a little nod. Nora, who'd watched from inside with the stealth of a veteran neighbor, cracked the screen door. You want coffee with that? She asked. Eyes kind, voice even. I'll take it, I said. 2 days later I got a text from Dan, my friend since high school, who runs the warehouse down on Pine. He's the kind who says only what he can back. Call me, it said. I called. Got intel, he said. Girl from my dispatch moonlights for that retreat group. Says there's a guy they use for these circles, breath work, some guitar. He's the kind that floats and talks slow. She says Lauren was glued to him. Name? I asked. Elliot? Evan. Something with an E, Dan said. You know I don't spread garbage. I'm telling you because you're my friend and because it sounded like they were proud of it, like it proved the freedom pitch. I took a breath I could measure with a tape. Copy. You gonna storm the castle? Dan asked. No, I said. I'm going to ask one question. Then I'll act like a man who knows the answer. That night, I went back to the house. Lauren was at the kitchen island. A glossy booklet from Elevate Circle open, circles and beaches again. We need to talk, I said, and set my keys in a straight line on the counter. She looked up with her new neutral. About what? Did you cross a line with someone at that retreat? I asked, in a tone I'd use for a supplier who owed me straight numbers. She stared at the fruit bowl. It was a kiss, she said, eyes not on me. One time. It was a moment. His name? I asked. Why does it matter? It matters because names make things real, I said. Evan, she murmured. He's aware. It was one time. Thank you for the answer, I said. Here's mine. I don't need spotless. I need honest and respectful. It was meaningless, she said, already sliding into fix-it mode. We can do counseling. We can set new intentions. I'll do whatever it takes. You already did what it takes, I said. To tell me who you are now. You're throwing away years for 1 second, she said, suddenly tearful the way you get when a tactic calls for it. I'm not throwing, I said. I'm placing things where they belong. You can't be this cold, she whispered. I can be clear, I answered. She stepped closer. Stay tonight, she said. We'll order food. I'll text Brooke and tell her to mind her business. I'll prove it. I'll block him. I swear. I slid the new household rules folder across the counter to her like a receipt. I'm sleeping at Nora's, I replied. Your move is not tears. Your move is conduct. I went to the garage and moved my tools into bins, labeled them, and stacked them by the side door. While I worked, I sorted my personal files into 2 boxes, vital and non-essential. The vital box went into my truck. On the workbench, I wrote a list and took a photo, then taped the list inside the cabinet for my own sake. Audit finances, new passwords, and shared subscriptions, pause house upgrades, redirect deliveries, change address with suppliers. If someone else had written it, I'd have paid them by the hour. That week, Lauren tried sweet. She left me a voicemail with a song in the background, her voice soft. She sent a photo of a blank text thread with Brooke, blocking her. She forwarded a confirmation about canceling a beach weekend with Elevate Circle. The second I acknowledged anything within noted, she tacked on a new condition. If you want me to come home early, say it. One read. Another. If you'd show some softness, I could meet you halfway. I kept my half where I said it. Pay the bills, keep the lights on, answer logistics, sleep in quiet. When I did stop at the house to swap clothes, I didn't linger. I kept my voice even. Trash night. Bring the cans down, I'd say. Plumber is coming Tuesday. She bristled. Speak to me like a person. I am, I'd answer. Short, clear, respectful. 3 days after I asked about the line, my phone buzzed on Nora's porch. Brooke's name flashed. We hadn't texted ever. A link and 2 photos loaded. Thought you should see this, she wrote, like some twisted public service announcement. The first photo, the beach at dusk, Lauren laughing up into a face just out of frame, the kind of gaze that writes checks in the head. The second, the same angle, no longer shy about being seen. It wasn't a slip. It was practiced. It wasn't one time. It was a script. My jaw didn't clench. My back didn't stiffen. My hands didn't shake. I was so far past hot I was back at cool. I put the phone face down on Nora's patio table. Nora looked from her tomato steaks to me, saying nothing. I'm going to the house, I said. She nodded once. Want me to send you with bread? I won't be long, I said. Save it for later. Lauren was at the counter scrolling when I came in. She turned like she'd rehearsed surprise. You're early, she said. I set the phone on the counter and slid the photos where she couldn't avoid them. She went still. The room shrank to 2 people and a screen. I didn't know they posted, she blurted. It's not about posting, I said. It's about truth. It was a confusing weekend, she started. It was a clear image, I replied. You didn't almost wreck this. You wrecked it. She swallowed. I can explain. No need, I cut in. I'm driving to an attorney. Her face shifted from a plea to anger to disbelief, a flipbook of tactics. So you're really doing this, she said. I'm doing exactly what you taught me, I said. I'm revising commitments. Don't you dare steal my language, she snapped. Then don't make me. I answered. You wanted freedom from domestic obligations. You got it. You'll ruin us, she said. We is already ruined, I said. What I do now is salvage me. You can't just move out, she said, shaking her head, like the word couldn't even assemble in her mind. I already did, I said. Nora's spare room works just fine. You told the neighbor? She asked, scandalized suddenly by the wrong thing. I told the people who need to know for logistics, I said. The rest is none of anyone's business unless you or your team makes it so. She pushed hair behind her ear and marched into the living room, like changing rooms would change outcomes. You'll regret this. You need me. I need respect, I said. Turns out it wasn't for sale here. I took the folder of documents from the console, stripped my name where it needed stripping, and moved what needed moving. I logged into accounts. I cut off access to the joint bank. I left the household bills on autopay with a one-way valve. I shut down anything we didn't both use. I moved the last of my tools to the truck and the jackets I wear most to the cab. I changed the address on my driver's license and my delivery accounts. I texted the 2 neighbors who sometimes sign for packages. Heads up, send mine to Norris. I told Dan, pulling the ripcord. As I walked past her again, she tried one last play. We can fix it, she said. We can rebuild. You want credit for rebuilding a house you lit yourself? I said. No. Then what do you want from me? She asked, a question that would have been gold a month ago. Nothing, I said. That's the point. She followed me to the door. You can't make me the villain, she said. That's a story for you and your circle, I answered. I'm not in that audience. When I reached for the knob, she lifted her hands in a surrender pose like this was some negotiation I'd be impressed by. At least don't make it ugly, she said. Ugly is when you invite people to laugh at me in my yard, I said. Ugly is when you take our money and call it liberation. Ugly is when you find a beach and forget the address of the house you live at. This is clean. Your ice, she whispered, maybe in awe, maybe an insult. I'm done, I told her and stepped out. The next morning I sat across from a small, blunt woman with a legal pad and a matter-of-fact tone. I gave her numbers. I gave her photos. I gave her a timeline without color. She gave me steps and told me what to expect. I don't chase drama. I secure assets and arrange exits. Same principle. On my way back to the shop, I stopped by Dan's warehouse. He walked out in his forklift vest, eyebrows up. Well, moving forward, I said. You need a couch? He asked. I've got a quiet bed 2 doors down, I told him. All I need is time. You want me to have a chat with Brooke about sending you those pics? He offered, half serious. Let them do what they do, I said. Every time they post, they offer me a receipt. He nodded. You're handling it. Handling beats reacting, I said. Always has. On day 5, the team tried a new angle. Tess texted me. She's devastated. You're overreacting. I typed back. Not available for group messages. Direct logistics only. Brooke followed with a voice memo about humility. I didn't listen. Mariah wrote, You broke her. I answered, she had help. I kept busy. Work is a blessing disguised as a routine. I built a maple table for a family that still says please and thank you. I drove my truck the long way home on purpose. At Nora's, I installed a new light in her entryway because hers buzzed and flickered and I can't stand fixable problems left unfixed. She said thank you and handed me an envelope with 2 keys, her front door and the side gate. No speeches, just trust. We ate her bread with soup. She told me about her brother's fishing hobby and the stubborn squirrel that raids her herbs. Not once did she ask me to explain myself like I was on trial. She just let me be a man who had a plan. Lauren tried soft again once the bank accounts stopped moving under her fingers. She showed up at Nora's fence one evening, voice low enough not to carry. I'm sorry, she said. I lost the plot. I wrote mine down, I said, nodding toward the list taped inside my cabinet. That helps. I quit the circle, she blurted. I emailed them. I blocked the team. I told Evan. I held up a hand. None of that buys a reset, I said. It just lowers my blood pressure. We can meet each other at 0, she said. You can meet yourself there, I answered. I'm past it. She glanced toward Nora's door. You at least owe me a conversation. Oh, I repeated. I prepaid for years. We're squared. She leaned in. Do you even miss me? I miss who you were, I said. But she doesn't live here anymore. People change, she said. Then change your address for deliveries, I told her. Half the packages on the porch were your retreats and your merch. They'll bounce if you don't. Her eyes flashed. I knew you'd rub that in. It's not rubbing, I said. It's a heads up. Logistics. The only language we still share. She pulled back. Fine, she said. Be cold. Be warm, I retorted and walked inside. Kindness is not agreement. By the next week, I had moved my financial life into a clean, simple line. Auto deposits rerouted. Bills on time. Subscriptions trimmed to things I use. The remodel I'd planned, bathroom tile, kitchen counters, paused indefinitely. The contractor I'd lined up understood when I said, We're stopping. He's a man who's seen the inside of enough houses to recognize when a project is just a new coat of paint on rot. On Friday morning, I woke up before the sun and sat on Nora's porch with bad coffee in a good cup. The phone buzzed with Brooke again, as if she were my new communications manager. This time it wasn't beat shots. It was a story about radical choices featuring a blurred man who wasn't me, plus a caption about finally choosing myself. I didn't play along. I didn't respond. I saved the image to a folder named Receipts, sent it to my attorney with a 2-word note for context, and went back to my coffee. Lauren texted at noon. We need to talk before you make any big decisions. The timing told me she had figured out what moving money and documents meant. I replied, we've already had the talk. The rest is paperwork. You don't have to punish me, she wrote. I'm not punishing you, I sent back. I'm ending a structure that stopped working. You dismantled the trust. I'm dismantling the rest. You're smug, she said. No, I wrote. I'm calm. She called. I let it ring out. She called again. I declined. She sent a paragraph about her childhood, how none of this was her fault, how society conditioned her, how I was rigid like my father. The classics. I wrote, don't use my father to score a point. He built his life board by board. That's not an insult. That evening, I walked to Dan's place where his wife had a few couples over for chili and cornbread. Not a party, just grown people. I shook hands, talked shop with a guy who restores old motorcycles, and laughed at a story about a raccoon in a chimney. Halfway through, Mariah arrived with someone I didn't know, saw me, and did a double take like the script didn't say I was allowed to be anywhere outside a witness chair. She drifted over. We didn't expect you'd show your face, she said. I took a bite of cornbread. That says more about your expectations than my calendar, I said. You're cruel, she decided, loud enough to be heard. I turned to the room. Am I being cruel to anyone present? I asked. Dan, from across the island, didn't miss a beat. Nope, he said, gesturing with his spoon. Men asked a yes or no question. That seemed polite. Mariah's date tugged her sleeve. Let's get some air, he said. She made a sound, then went. The room kept spinning. Scene over. When I got back to Nora's, she was on her steps with a book. You good? She asked. Better than last week, I said. Progress, she said, then stood and went inside like the conversation had reached its logical end. On Sunday morning, Lauren sent one more message that told me she finally believed it. What do I tell people? She asked. Tell them whatever helps you sleep, I said. I'll stick to. We had a deal. It got broken. I don't live with broken deals. You'll look heartless, she wrote. I'll look consistent, I said. By Tuesday, the paperwork pieces were set. Keys returned. Accounts cleaned. Deliveries redirected. I walked through her house one last time, not as a farewell tour, but as a checklist. Furnace filter replaced. Smoke detector's battery date noted. A sheet of emergency numbers taped inside the pantry door, because I'm not petty. I left my garage remote on the counter with the folder of instructions for appliances, because I'm not interested in chaos for anyone. On the console, where we used to drop mail, I put one note in my handwriting. Respect is the only currency that holds value. We ran out. Lauren came in from the patio and stood across from me, not quite in my space. You're really leaving, she said, like we hadn't been living that truth for 10 days. I left when you chose spectators over your partner in my yard, I said. I just hadn't packed yet. You'll never find someone who gets you, she said, swing number 10, a last try at landing something. Someone who gets me won't pick a crowd over me, I said. Someone who gets me will bring bread to my house and mean it. She looked toward Nora's place with a flicker of something I didn't want to diagnose. Her? Really? Don't reduce good people to props in your show, I said. Nora is decent. That's not a strategy. That's a fact. I hope she likes cold men, she snapped, the kind of petty you reach for when the rest of your options are gone. I hope you like living the freedom you bought, I said. Bills show up even when your circle doesn't. You'll miss me when it's quiet, she said. I like quiet, I replied. Then I said the last line I owed the scene. Doors lock both ways. I'm choosing mine. I picked up my boxes, walked out, and shut the door without slamming it. The gate clicked behind me like punctuation. 6 months later, I wake up in a small house I bought 10 minutes farther out, on a street that ends in trees and a dead-end sign that finally means peace. It's not fancy. It's solid. I walk into a garage I wired myself, full of order and tools that stay where I put them. My truck starts every time. My company picked up 2 new clients from the next town over because I wasn't distracted and my quotes are honest. Dan and I fish on Saturdays sometimes and don't talk about anything that doesn't matter. On Thursdays, I eat dinner with people who don't perform for phones. Nora, and I kept it simple. She brings over herbs. I fix things she won't ask about. There's no story to sell. It's respect. That's the point. As for Lauren, word drifts across the fence line you don't even have to cross. The Circle folded their tent for a while, then popped up again under a new name. The team moved on to fresher causes. The guy with the guitar posted a video about sunsets and disappeared from her page. The house looks staged when I drive by, clean but empty. Lights on at odd hours, packages gone from the porch, not my concern. She built a life where she's the only constant. She can keep it. I didn't win. I didn't lose. I chose. When my phone buzzes now, it's a client, or Dan with a photo of a ridiculous fish, or Nora asking if I want soup. Nobody laughs at my neighbor in my yard. Nobody rearranges my chairs without asking. And when someone asks, think that's funny?